How are we doing, guys and girls? Welcome to the latest episode of the Be More podcast. Guys, I am so excited for this one. We are joined by a very, very special guest who I had the honor of meeting in Miami. So, guys, without further ado, welcome to the show, Tony Phelan. How you doing, mate?
How you doing, Jack? Cadillac Jack? I'm doing well, man. I'm doing great, brother. How are you?
Very good, very good. Mate, share with the guys, what is your story?
Well, like you said, we met at the Mastermind, man. We met a lot of amazing people out there. Found out that a lot of people out there have a very similar story to mine. I wasn't aware that a lot of people in that room were in sobriety, and a lot of people were since that meeting are now in sobriety. But my story, so I'm a recovering addict. I've been sober for long term. My last sobriety date was over 5 years ago. March of 5 years ago, as of this March, and it was alcohol. But I always messed around with everything. I abused cocaine and alcohol mostly, benzodiazepines, Xanax when I could get them. But I mean, I was a shit show. I was a shit show. I mean, I'm 45 years old now, and I consider myself being reborn at 40. Right. And I always tell myself, man, I wasted so much time that was wasted just chasing the false bullshit that, pardon my French, I'm from Texas. I'm going to curse a lot, but
Carry on.
yeah, but so I was born in New York. I moved out to Texas with my family when I was 12 years old, the Houston area, and that's a very affluent area of Houston called the Woodlands. A lot of very affluent people live there. And we weren't affluent. We were lower to middle class, right? But my father just, did what he could to, get us in good situations. And as the new guy in that town, and as the person without the money, I had to find a way to make myself noticeable. And my whole thing, in my later high school years, was to be the guy that was always drunk, right? The guy that always could provide alcohol. And I don't know if anybody on the watching remembers a show called Dazed and Confused, a movie called Dazed and Confused with the Matthew McConaughey and a few others. There was this dude in that show that showed up to a party with the entire, you guys call it the boot, right? But the trunk of the vehicle, everything taken out, bunch of ice and beer, right? Well, that was me. So I'd always show up and roll up, and with a bunch of beer. And I thought it was cool. I said, I'm going to start drinking during the day, just so people, say, man, this guy's crazy. He drinks by himself during the day. Well, slowly, college, you get the regular college party scene, and then into your professional life, and it starts affecting you, your family. And it really didn't start affecting me truly negatively until my professional life. So I started out in sales. I was in pharmaceutical sales for a while, and I was blatantly using cocaine and drinking. And we had a company car, and I was constantly just driving around that company car drunk. I'd go to work drunk. I'd go to work on cocaine. I would give, I'd be sitting there speaking in front of several industry professionals, high on cocaine and drunk. But that's and it became a problem. I was lucky in the fact that I always managed to mostly get out of all my trouble. Anytime I got arrested, I was bailed out. I mean, it would be deferred, or it would be dismissed. So I just kept going. I was like, man, I'm untouchable. It wasn't until, let's see, probably age 29, where I was in my company car, using it privately at a bar, and there were girls involved. There was another group of dudes involved. I had my machismo questioned, and I, started to fight. So I lost the fight. I got in my vehicle, and I turned around instead of exiting the parking lot like I should have, and I ran them all over. And that was one of the biggest scares of my life. I could have injured a lot of people, a lot worse than I did. What I did manage to injure some people pretty seriously, three guys. But again, I was able to secure an attorney through a really good attorney in Houston. That he was the head of the ACLU at the time, and my close college girlfriend was his paralegal. So they, reduced the rates, and I managed to get a really good deal. I just served, a few weeks in jail. Supposed to do 60 days. I did 30 on good behavior or whatever. It was overcrowded or whatever. But in Harris County Jail, in Harris County, Texas, man, it's a tough scene. You're in county jail, but you see people get stabbed, you see people get beat up on a regular basis, and I'm half Hispanic, so I played that card, and I kind of got in with the one of the popular prison gangs called the Houstones, and so I kind of had their guidance and protection for my short time there. I mean, I'm not claiming to be any badass or anything like that, but you kind of have to make your friends there. And so, I got out, and that didn't stop me. I had 9 years of probation. Oh, let me add, before that, my last year in college, I was caught with um, Adderall, right? The prescription drug Adderall without a prescription. I was in the library studying for midterms. The security guard saw that I had the tablets there. I didn't think much of it, and he called the cops. I got arrested. So I got 9 years probation for that, for felony possession of a controlled substance. Now, I managed to interview my way into that pharmaceutical job. I consider myself an expert interviewer. I can win people over. I turn on the charisma when I need to. Even with that pending felony charge, they hired me, right? They hired me with 2 interviews, and it's very rare to have 2 interviews in the pharmaceutical field and get hired. Nowadays, it's like 4 or 5 interviews. So I was lucky. And then, of course, I screwed that up with the aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in the vehicle. So when I got out, my options were limited. I was on probation for the drug charge. I had an additional felony charge, which would, in all cases, would revoke your original probation, and it was I was supposed to go serve 3 years in prison. But I got another good attorney who got me out of it, and I just got 1 year added on to my 9 years of probation, and with the serving of the the 30 days. So, but I couldn't get a job after that. So what I did was wait tables and bartend. So I bartended, waited tables for several years. But my alcoholism was at its peak, getting in fights every weekend, and a lot of people I think can identify with that. They don't see it as a problem. They just see it as, let's get drunk. You're out with a lot of the same people that are doing a lot of the same things. And it's not truly a problem. You don't see the problems affecting your family as much, especially when you're under the influence. And that's that's one of my biggest regrets about this whole thing, is that it affected my family a lot. And I didn't find out how much until I became sober, and we were able to have open dialogue about this. And I didn't know my mom cried every day. I didn't know my sister was calling my friends for advice. I didn't know my brother, who was an ex-Marine special ops guy, was crying sometimes because he thought I was going to kill myself. I was in a bad state. I was constantly depressed, using drugs and alcohol to a massive depression. And then it got to the point where, in my mid to late 30s, I was a business owner. I owned a nutrition store, franchise. And it was just, it kind of got out of control. So I would close a store to go, I'd be drinking at the store, right? I'd always have, my thing was wine. And I always kind of told myself, it's wine. It's not liquor. It's not, I'm not drinking hardcore liquor. It's just wine. But then I needed wine 24/7 in order to function. I'd wake up at night, open my bedside drawer. I'd have a bottle of wine. I'd chug almost the entire thing or half of it, go back to sleep, wake up, and continue. So, but I was always, just getting by at that point. Then I decided to go back to school. Said, I'm going to change my life. Go back to school, right? That's what I thought you're supposed to do. You're trained to think that that's the way to get ahead in life, is to go to school, get another degree, right? So I went to go get another bachelor's. I got a bachelor's of science in nursing. So I, graduated with a degree in nursing, and got a job at a hospital working as a patient liaison. It's kind of a sales nurse hybrid job. And with that came a lot of autonomy. And I worked at night from 5 p.m. to 2 p.m. That was my shift. So I had no supervision. So I was drinking the entire time. That lasted for 5 years, and even with a couple suicide attempts and being here in the United States, we have a mandatory 72-hour hold if you are suicidal, or you have suicidal ideation, they call it. So every time I went to the mandatory 72-hour hold, I would talk my way out of that mandatory 72-hour hold and get out within 24 hours or less. I talked to the psychiatrist. I said, look, it's just I was trying to get back at my girlfriend. I was just saying things. I'm not serious. I have too many things to lose. I have beautiful nieces. I have a family. I have a great job. And they let me out. So I was able to manipulate a lot of the system a lot of times. I became an expert at it. But, you know, um, I think what really got me to the point where I finally realized that I needed help was when I was around 39 years old. And I had a girlfriend. I was living in a beautiful mid-rise in downtown Austin, you know, um, and just going out partying all the time. I had a beautiful young girlfriend, and we got into an altercation in which I choked her, right, to get her to stop. Well, we got an argument, no excuse, right? I choked her, and she called the police. They arrested me. Now I have an aggravated assault with forcible strangulation, something like that. And when I went and got out of jail, my niece, my goddaughter, who was going to school just down the road at the time, came and picked me up. And talk about shame, having my young niece pick me up from prison at 4 a.m. in the morning, knowing what had happened. And that was the turning point. That was the turning point. I realized that I needed to give it up. But you can't just give it up. You have to um, you have to detox. And I tried several times to detox on my own. My girlfriend stayed with me at the time for an additional 2.5 years after that, and she supported me through the whole thing. And what I did was I knew some doctors, and they provided me with medication to detox safely at home, which I did. Went to AA, did that whole route, and maintained my sobriety. And I think what really helped me was getting back. I was an athlete all my life, right? I was a high caliber cross country and track athlete. Ran in college on a scholarship, and I started getting fit again. So I, joined the wave of CrossFitters. Back in those days, started with that. Had a community of good people, and just started focusing on myself. But I was still working, a 9 to 5 essentially, right? So I never had aspirations to do more with that. It wasn't until I got sober, and since I was still working that night gig at the hospital doing the hospital sales, I picked up a part-time job with a freestanding emergency room here in Texas and in a handful of other states. We have what we call freestanding emergency rooms. They're fully functional emergency departments that are not hospital affiliated. They're standalone. They function independently. And they were looking for a marketer. So I picked up that gig, and that's where my business actually got started. When I kind of learned a little bit about their business, what the high reimbursements were for certain types of patients, I pitched them the idea to treat individuals that were seeking recovery. And when you're able to treat somebody in acute withdrawal, you have to hold them in observation. And first of all, you're doing a service to the client, because at that level of withdrawal, or if they're still intoxicated, no place will admit you, no treatment center will admit you until you're stabilized. So we provide those stabilization services at the freestanding emergency room. I put a team together. I pick up the clients, our industry professionals, usually interventionists or someone in the recovery industry. pick them up, bring them to the ER, we get them stabilized, and I form partnerships with the treatment centers in the area to get them treatment the next day. And, and that's what I did for several years. And I was doing great. It was great. I was making several $100,000 a year. It was me and a handful of contracted employees. And that's where, that where the people that we know, the people we surround ourselves with, the Eric Spoffords, the Whalens, the Wes Watsons, all say, I fell into the trap, right? Yes, I'm doing very well compared to the people I surround myself with. I got the car, the house, the other car, the young girlfriend. I'm going on trips, bought a condo in Mexico. Man, I'm living the life, right? But I fell into the trap of not being in the right circle, not being in the right room, comparing myself to people that weren't amounting to anything. So yeah, I was doing great. I was a king in that circle. But once a friend of mine introduced me to Eric Spofford and those guys and the Miami mastermind where I met you, that completely changed my life, my viewpoint. I didn't realize that I could scale my business the way I could scale it. First of all, I had never planned to scale my business. I was happy making what I was making, but it never hit me that that I should be shooting for something ridiculous. I should be shooting for a lot higher than what I was. And so, that's where I'm at. I'm scaling my business. I met these guys, and it's nice to have this circle of friends and the mastermind calls or the inner circle calls, because they keep you accountable, right? At the end of the day, and I think I've heard you say it, Jack. You don't rise to the you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, right? So I started getting up at 5 a.m. Every morning, getting the gym in early, and it feels great having 4 or 5 hours under your belt before anybody really starts doing anything during the day. I can get a lot done before 10 p.m. than most people get done the entire day. And it's that type of thinking and creating a certain pattern for myself that has got me on, I think, headed towards a different level. But at the same time, I think I'm doing well, and I had the potential, I had my trajectory, I had everything going for me. And just recently, you've always been told to expect the unexpected, and judge yourself on when you're at your lowest, not when you're at your most successful. Well, now's the time for me to judge myself when I'm at my lowest, because my business, essentially, the bottom fell out, right? So with our current, without getting political, with our current administration, the healthcare regulations on insurance companies is kind of shit here in the United States. So with a lot of the policies, especially the marketplace policies from Obamacare and things like that, will not pay the medical providers. And my business is structured on those reimbursements, on getting my clients, my ER clients, paid through those reimbursements. So when I saw that the previous year that it basically went from, I don't know, it dropped by about 75%, the reimbursements, So a lot of my contracts were terminated. A lot of my contracts were severely decreased. And so now I'm in the midst of liquidating a lot of things, selling this, selling that, selling the condo in Mexico. And, but I'm one of those persons with no ego, man. I mean, I don't really care. I could sell everything, go live in my mom's garage apartment, drive a 2012 Toyota Corolla, and start all over. I don't give a shit. And I think that's a lot of what we've learned is that, ego it's self-constructed. It's, the shame and the embarrassment, the humiliation, all that is ego, and ego is created, so, so I lost my ego a long time ago. I don't have much ego. I don't care what people think of me, really. And I think that's a benefit. But so I spoke with one of my mentors recently, and he gave me some good advice on how to pivot, still keep my business, still keep it running, still keep the blood flowing, but pivot to where I can succeed in the same industry, but just on a different side of it. So I'm working towards that right now, and we have good things coming, but it's just going to take some time, you know. So yeah, that's where I'm at. So
I really appreciate you being so open, honest, sharing your story. Like, you're going to help so many people by really communicating like what you've been through, how you come out the other side, the lessons you've learned in that journey. I know Wes speaks about healing yourself and then teaching others to do the same. Like, you've really done that, mate. So you should be really proud. And I love listening to your story, right? And there's some areas I'm like, right, let's go deeper into that and your experiences and what you learned from it. Because I think
sure.
that's really valuable for myself, for people listening. So like, talk about your experience when you went to jail. Like, it was only a short period, like 30 days. What did you learn from that?
Well, I learned that the justice system wasn't very fair to those without resources. You know, that's one thing. You know, there was a lot of people in there that if they were me, you know, and had the funds and the white skin, and you know, they may not have been in the situation they were in. I mean, I should have been with 3 felony aggravated assault charges with a deadly weapon. I should have been in there a lot longer than I was, you know, but I was able to, you know, get a good attorney and pay my way out essentially. But you know, the justice system sucks for a lot of people, just a rotating door. You know, here in the United States, at least, you know, people don't have the resources and the options to see a way out. So being in jail or you know, or is not a big deal to a lot of people. They just plan on going back out, doing the same thing, and coming back. But for me, you know, truthfully, the jail was an experience that I wouldn't trade because you know, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I could handle myself in tough situations, and you know, you know, I had been in jail before, but just you know, the in and outs, the couple days here for intoxication and things like that, but never in a large county jail like Harris County Jail in Texas, in Houston, Texas, and so it was an eye opener, you know, and I didn't want to go back, so I learned that I wasn't going to go back, and you know, at least that was my initial goal was to not ever go back, because when you lose your freedom, man, when you get those cuffs put on your ankles and your wrists, and you're tethered to another inmate who's tethered to another inmate, and then they're transferring you and you're out in the open and there are cars driving by, it's just the most humiliating feeling ever, you know, and you're like, God, never again. But you know, my addiction was my addiction, and of course after time passed, you know, I went to jail again for, you know, physically assaulting somebody. And you know, but it's it was I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was a good experience. You know, I consider it a good experience. I try to get everything I can out of every experience, whether it's good or bad. And you know, I'm glad I had that experience, though very short and not comparable to a lot of people who have done some major prison time. But you know, it was enough.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you said something really interesting when you were talking about all the drinking you was doing and how everyone around you was kind of doing the same. I know it was affecting like your family, they were getting affected, but it sounded like you was almost blending in. Like, it sounds like obviously a lot of people in society right now are they're escaping into drink, drugs, etc. Did you feel like you were blended in, or did you feel like you were different?
Well, I mean, you know, at some point it just became I was just blending in with everybody else, right? And you know, I initially when I first started drinking the way I did at a younger age, I stood out because I was, you know, so young, 16, and you know, and but you know, once you get to college age, you're just blending in. You're just doing it to do it because everybody else is. You know, what else is there to do on the weekends besides go and drink and chase women and you know, and do as many drugs as you can. You know, that's what it was. And so yeah, it was just a matter of blending in and you know, not as much peer pressure because I wanted to do it, but just it was just what you did. And I didn't have that vision. Every once in a while you come across somebody, you know, and I had a friend, very close friend, who's been a friend of mine for 25 years now, who could have done the same thing, but he chose to, you know, go a different route. He went to a different school than everybody else, you know, and he distanced himself from his friends in high school, and even after college, He moved away to a different city. He got himself together. He's a multimillionaire now. But and I saw in him what I know now to be true, that show me your friends, right, and I'll show you your future. Well, in his case, he saw that at a very young age, and he distanced himself from the individuals that weren't going to increase his value, and made friends with a lot of extremely important people.
I love it. Love it. Let's talk a little bit about. I'm going to ask you some good questions in a minute about advice you'd give your 21-year-old self. I think show me your friends and I'll show you your future would be one of them. But I'll let you think on that for a second. But talk us through, like, I know right now, especially in the UK where I am, there's a lot of guys that are going through mental health challenges. Lots are trying to commit suicide. Some have. Like, you obviously had some experience there. How did you overcome that? What would your advice be to someone going through that right now?
Right. So, and so somebody going through that right now, right? Look, and it's very cliche to say that this will pass. Things get better. You have no idea what you'll be in 5 years. You'll be in 10 years, 15 years. That'll be a blip on your radar screen. The problems you think you're having right now, even though they may be great at this juncture in your life, will be nothing, with time. And everything takes time, but it also takes time and it takes action. So you have to be able to figure out why it is, what is it that you're depressed about, right? You kind of find out what you're made of, who you are, what you want, and then take action to try to get what you want. I know some people feel hopeless. I mean, I was that guy with a gun in my mouth, and then saying goodbye to my friends, and then a friend would call the police. I was in a different city, but they'd call the police, and then I'd have basically like a SWAT team at my door, and stop me on several occasions, a handful of occasions. But I just didn't see a way out of it. I felt depressed. I felt like I wasn't going anywhere. I saw all these people that were successful, and I'm like, I had no freaking clue how to get there. It was out of my reach, right? Well, I mean, the truth is nothing's out of your reach. You can make a go of something and make it into something. It's just it will pass. Is my advice to some people. I mean, you have no idea what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, and that only comes with time, right? So if you can weather the storm, you find out who you are in those tough situations. And if you can just put down the drink, put down the suicidal thoughts, put down, all the negativity, and focus on what you do have. Because so many people just aren't able to focus on what they do have. Are you healthy? You still have your health. You don't have any major complications. You have every ability to go out there and start your own business, or learn from people. But I think the first step is surrounding yourself with people that have done more than you have ever expected to do. Somehow find a way to get in front of those people, right? Dump the friends that aren't helping you. Dump the friends that are giving you advice that haven't amounted to shit because their advice isn't worth anything, right? Take the advice of people that have made something of themselves, and that's who you want to surround yourself with. You've done that. I've done that, and it's amazing the amount of help you'll get just out of nowhere, just for being in the room. People want to help. Successful people want to help other people that want to be successful, right? If they see that in you, they'll give you free advice. And I've there's several people from this inner circle that you and I are involved with that that have reached out to me with certain opportunities, or here and there. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's talk about this. And I'll be in Miami for the networking event on the 18th. I know you just came back from Miami not too long ago. I don't know if are you going to be able to go or no?
Not to this one, but I'll be at the ones in the future for sure.
Good, but so I'm like, great. This is going to be a great opportunity. I'll get out there, get to speak with these guys again, see if we can create any synergy in what I'm looking to do. And and it's just such a broad range of people, man. I mean, it's people that own multi-million-dollar companies wrapping cars, wrapping cars with, and I think one of the individuals in our group um, wraps cars, owns a company that wraps cars, has 136 employees, just bought a new Lambo, has a McLaren as well, and a Rolls Royce. I mean, it's just, and just a few years ago, he was overweight, unmotivated, working for someone else, but he learned the craft, learned what he needed to do to start the business himself and do it better. Surrounded himself with successful people, and the people that were doers and not triers. And there is a difference, right? There's the doers and then there's the triers. If you say you're going to try, that means you are just going to give it enough without the risk. That to me is what that means. Don't try. Fucking do it. Go all in. I mean, if you ask any multimillionaire, I guarantee you, or any billionaire, at some point in their career, they were at risk of losing everything on one deal, right? I mean, a majority of them, I would assume. And you have to take the risk. You have to go all in everything you do. Trying is a bullshit word. Don't try. Don't say, okay, I'll try to get up early in the morning. No, you do it, and it's non-negotiable. Create a system for yourself, whether it's getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning, eating clean, getting to the gym, starting your day off right, connecting with a certain amount of influential people throughout the day, even if it's just to check in, reaching out to a certain audience. My whole thing is I never even considered having a social media presence before I went to the inner circle. I thought that social media was a waste of people's resources and time. And it's the exact opposite, right? I mean, you have to be on social media these days, and even if you don't think you have anything to say, you don't know you don't have anything to say. I mean, you could get up in the morning, show your breakfast, talk a little bit about going to the gym and how shitty you feel. God, I don't want to be here right now, but guess what? I'm going to the fucking gym. And how many people could that touch? You don't know, right? Your reach could be extremely far, but at least if it helps one person, you're on the right track, right? So, but again, going back to trying and doing, it's just, if you're going to do something, anything worthwhile, you have to really give it your all. And giving it your all means that there's going to be significant risk involved. And if you're not willing to risk it, then you're going to be stuck in the same cycle that you've been stuck in, the same 9 to 5, the same daily problems, so it's just do. God, what was it, Yoda? I think that says there is no try, there is only do. That's a smart motherfucker. But it's so true. I mean, it's so true. So so I'm at the point right now where I have to do, and I'm at risk of losing a lot, because I'm liquidating everything to put back into the business, right? And I'm paying my staff with my personal funds, because my business initially had little overhead, and I didn't plan for a catastrophe, but you should always expect the unexpected, and then adjust as necessary. So that's what I'm doing, and with the help and the mentorship of some people that have made a lot of them from themselves, that came from nothing. I'm going to make the right changes, and we'll see where we are in 2-3 years, but it'll be positive.
I love it. And by the way, guys, this is your first ever podcast, right? And you were like, "Oh, I'm not sure if I'll have much to share, but it'll be good." I'm like, "Mate, this has probably been the best podcast I've done." Like, there's obviously so much wisdom you've gained from all of your experiences, all of your adversity, and including what you're going through now. And you're sharing so much value, mate. So I want to say I really appreciate it. And I want to go into some more detail if you've got time and some more little bits.
I got the time, brother. Let's go.
Cool. So you mentioned about fitness really helping. Obviously, fitness is what has been what saved me in my life too, right? So like the fitness aspect and the community, like let's talk about the catalyst for you. Obviously, when you got sober, you're like, right, I've made a decision now. So like what advice would you give to people who want to make that decision as well? What would be the most important things you would recommend? And then the power of having fitness in your life again and the community you've got from that and how much of an impact that's made for you.
Sure. So I mean, look. The facts are that a fit person is a healthier person, is a you're going to think more clearly. You're going to feel better. You're going to be healthier. You're going to be able to perform better in all aspects of life, right? So, but for somebody who it might be new to, just start with what you can start with. There's a young lady that I'm Facebook friends with. I haven't seen her in several years, but she started posting herself doing push-ups every day, right? And just posting it. She was probably very embarrassed. She wasn't very, fit, and she could barely do a push-up. And there's a lot of people commenting that's not a full push-up. No rep, no rep, no rep, but fuck them. People that are going to say that, obviously have some insecurities and have no, and probably aren't doing what they need to be doing. So but then you see her progressing, right? And you see her progressing and progressing and progressing. And after a couple months, the chick is doing, 25 full push-ups, doing it the right way, and she's bettering herself. Look, if you knock down somebody that is trying to better themselves, then what kind of fucking person are you? Look at yourself in the mirror and figure out why the hell you would say that. I mean, I hate people like that. I used to be one of those people. I used to constantly rag on people and just constantly bring people down, or come up with some excuse why he or she was going to fail. Yeah, sure, he's going to do this for a while. He's going to fail. Watch. And then there I was in my 9 to 5, not making a mountain of shit, drinking alcohol constantly. What do I have to say? But fitness for me, man, is a foundation. Start small, have your goals in place. Maybe find a mentor or a trainer that might be able to help you along the way. There's a lot of great content out there, people that'll offer you free advice and free workout advice. But definitely try to set a goal for yourself, and achieve that goal, and then surpass that goal, and then create another goal, and then do bigger and go bigger and go bigger. And once you have that fitness foundation, that'll help you in every aspect of your life. Because I was the same way in my fitness and my working out as I was in my business. I got comfortable. I got trapped in that comfortable state. I was making good money. I was happy. I was traveling. Um, but in my fitness, I kind of plateaued as well. But I didn't even notice it until I met Wes Watson. And some of the things that he had to say. Like, he goes, let your regret be your guide, I think, is one thing he said one time. And ego is just is a construct. It's just your shame and humiliation is ego, and ego is just a construct. And you have to. And then I think Sean Whalen was somebody that said, go out there to humiliate yourself. Plan on humiliating yourself. Plan on embarrassing yourself, because that's what you need to get past. And for me, I realized that I had hit a plateau. Because I was, I'm like, would always say, especially to some of my friends who were trainers, look, I don't need your advice. Thank you. I don't need your advice. I've been doing this for 20 years. I was an NCAA athlete. I know what I'm doing. But, I hit a plateau. I was doing the same old, same old, same old, same old, same old. And I would let some old injuries be my, speak to me, a little negative. Oh, you can't do this because of your knees, right? I had two surgeries on my knees. But you just got to work past that. And for me, it's just it's a release. It's just it's something that has to be in part of my life. I don't ever see it going away. It can't. It can't go away. I mean, back in the day, everybody's walking around hunting and gathering and doing all that stuff. What are we doing? Just sitting at desks. And so you have to make fitness a part of your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And start slow. Look for mentors. Look for people you can look up to. Look for a community of individuals that are doing the same thing, that are supportive, and immerse yourself in it and hold yourself accountable. Document it. Document it. You might want to say to yourself that, okay, nobody on my Facebook account or nobody on my Instagram account wants to see my stupid workout shit, but it doesn't have to be for them. It can be for you. It can be to hold yourself accountable, because that one time you don't post, everyone else is going to know, oh, this guy probably didn't work out that day, or something. So documentation should be for yourself. And eventually, if it touches other people and reaches other people, then great. That's huge. And that's eventually what it'll do. But initially, start out for yourself. Start a diary, a journal. Start doing video journals for yourself, and that'll help you stay accountable.
I love it, mate. So So talk to me about this. I've got a couple more questions for you, right? And this has been huge for me too. The power of getting the right rooms. And you mentioned this a few times. So like, was the inner circle for you like the first investment you made in this kind of way, or was there other things you did before?
So the inner circle was my first ever. I mean, so I had been in social circles with multimillionaires and billionaires through my friend who I mentioned earlier, who kind of moved away and did his own thing, but he always kept me close because he saw the potential in me. So I've been around those types of people, but I never felt like I added any value, right? So I was kind of kept myself at arm's distance. So, but the inner circle was the first time I've ever done something like this, that at this scale, and professionally done, specifically to get people in the right rooms and get people networking and meeting and creating synergy and things like that. It was huge. I always toyed around with during COVID. Is when I really got interested in it, but there was nothing going on during COVID, right? So a friend of mine, who Frank Parisi, introduced me to a friend of his, Eric Spofford, and they knew each other from the industry years prior. And he started telling me about all the great things Eric was doing and this and that, and introduced me to the inner circle. And I reached out to Eric via text. They gave me his number, and Eric texted back immediately and said, "You should do this. You know, just jump on." And I jumped in. I did it, and I was able to go to the. I think I missed the yacht event in March or something like that, but then I made the Miami Mastermind. And God, what a life changer, man! And you're riding that high for a good 2 weeks, right? At least, of everything that all the people you've met, the energy. But if you don't put those things into action, it will quickly fade, right? So you really have to put what you've learned there into action. I mean, I still have my Eric Spofford book that I'm constantly writing notes in, and I constantly reference this book. Let me pick a good one. I'll just tell you something. Okay. Who was this? Wes Watson. All right. You got to act like you fucking have nothing, like you don't have another fucking chance, right? That if you acted like you don't have another chance, like this is it, this is your last chance, what would we all do, right? My father passed away at the age of 60 from cancer, right? He battled cancer for 30 years. One of the most well-educated, the kindest men I ever knew, but he was never able to reach that level of success that he could because he was constantly sick. A PhD from Notre Dame University, just an amazing person. But the gosh, what was I saying? Well, God, Jack, retract me. Where was I going with that?
Last job.
I said, oh
Your
yeah, act as if this is your last chance, right? So I always considered myself, okay, my dad died at 60. I've got till 60, right? Because I was the closest to him as our children in DNA, right? I look just like him. So I'm always like, I'm gonna get cancer and I'm gonna die at 60. So what should I do? Right. So that's kind of the mentality I have is I need to accomplish something and I need to accomplish something quickly. I don't have children, but I want something to leave to my nieces, a legacy. I want them to learn from my actions and my accomplishments. And even if it's failure, man, even if I fail, they will learn from that. Right. Um, so it's just act like you don't have another chance. Act like you have a limited, because we do. We're all gonna die, dude. Sooner than we think. I just mentioned my friend Frank Parisi, our friend Frank Parisi, who was winning, had his best quarter of the inception of his business. He owns a treatment center and is now fighting for his life, intubated in a hospital from pneumonia secondary to heart failure. It came out of nowhere. None of the doctors know how it came about. Nobody knows why. There were no warning signs, and all of a sudden now I FaceTimed with him the other day, and now he's all tubed up. He can't speak, but he can give me thumbs up, and you never know when your health is going to affect your life. And that's the one thing we can't control. But what we can control is our actions and what we can do to better our lives and better the lives of others. And I think that's another thing that we haven't touched on, is that if you're not attempting to help the lives of others, then you're failing. Yes, we ultimately want to, we want to be rich. We want to be able to support our families and have the freedom, that comes with that amount of money. But ultimately, if you don't have your health, what do you have? So, it's a scary thing sometimes, but you just gotta live like you don't have much time left.
So true. So true. And let's talk a little bit about the law of exposure, because I feel like this has been the biggest thing for me with the inner circle, getting around people like Eric, yourself, like being exposed to people playing life at a totally different level has shifted. Like when Sean opened up the event with that talk about we're running out of time, like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I've never heard anyone speak like this before.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just a whole different mentality, perspective, and this is why these guys are operating from a space of urgency, despite what they've already achieved. And it's like a different ball game completely compared to a lot of the information I was used to hearing. Like I'd almost arrived. Do you know what I mean? So like, whereas these
Right.
guys are playing life at a completely different level, flying around in jets and with yachts, and they're like hustling harder than most people like anyone I've ever met in my life. You know?
Right. Because they feel as if they have not arrived yet. They feel as if that they need more, right? They want to get to the next level. They are constantly trying to figure out how to get to that next level. And that's a difference between, people. Sometimes people are content and you fall into that trap. Yeah, when Whalen came out and said, "Hey, guess what? We all just won the fucking lottery today because we woke up, and so many people didn't." Right? He was like, take that in for a second and think about that. And I have something in common with Sean Whalen, in that he was telling us a story about how he lost everything, lost his wife, lost his kids. I think this was before he was sober. He had a gun in his mouth and he was going to shoot himself. And something popped in his head regarding, be a lion, not a sheep, which is now his brand. And he put down the gun and made the necessary changes to succeed. And the but yeah, I mean, all those guys are constantly striving to do more, right? Wes Watson, Fleischman, all those guys, and Spofford. I mean, Spofford's, he said, he made $115 million in that sale from his business at a very young age. And he was bored. He felt worthless. He was depressed afterwards. He's like, now what? Now I got to bring it to the next level. So he took everything he earned essentially and put all his chips on the table, and took a big risk in his next venture. And he was either gonna win or lose. I mean, that's how they think. They're risk takers, and it's the risk takers that succeed. But you were talking about the law of exposure, right? Yeah. So once you get exposed to this type of stuff, and once you see the possibilities and how they did it, I mean, Wes Watson's only 5 or 6 years out of prison, and he's making $2 million a month. And how did he start it? By personal training, and then personal growth, and then life coaching, and then and it's just expanded and expanded and expanded. And he's giving back to people that need that support, and it's paying off for him. But even he's not happy with his success. Everybody's going bigger. And if we're being exposed to these people, I can only imagine the amount of people they're being exposed to, right? So that's their level that they want to get to. We have our level we want to get to. But you're right. Once you have what you see, what's possible, there's no going back. How can you? I mean, Jesus. I mean, you can't go back. I mean, can you imagine? I couldn't. I was talking to my sister the other day, and I was like, man, I can't. She said, well, you can always. I was telling her the troubles with my business. And she's like, well, you can always, you can always go back and make decent money doing something similar to what you were doing. I'm like, are you joking? Like, I'll never go back to a 9 to 5. I'll never go back to somebody telling me what to do. I'm going to continue to help people get into recovery, one way or the other. And that's another big reason, is a part of my sobriety is helping people get into sobriety, and helping them with treatment. I need that in my life. So there's no option for me. That's the industry I'm going to be in, and that's what I'm going to do. And but once you are exposed to this level of success, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to go back and not take action to make it happen for yourself. I mean, you have to. There's no other option. And we were walking to lunch one time, or maybe it was at the end of the conference, one of the first day, I think. And me and Frankie Parisi were walking down the hallway, and there was Wes, and we were just like, "Hey, man, thanks for what you do. We follow you, yada yada yada." And his response was, "I had no choice. I had no choice." So if you approach it that way, like you have no choice other than to reach for the stars and try to surpass your goal. I mean, goals are one thing, but I mean, yeah, it's great to have goals, but if you don't have some type of ridiculous fucking goal, something that's so unattainable, then you're doing it wrong. And if you don't have people telling you that you'll never make it, that it's impossible, then you're doing it wrong, right? You want no people around you. You don't want yes people around you. If you have yes people around you telling you that you're doing such a great job and tell you what a great person you are, you might want to reevaluate your friends, because you want the people to say, granted, you do want people to support you, and and you need a good support group and things like that, but you need people to challenge you. Was my point, right? You need people to constantly challenge you, and if you're hearing from people that, man, Tony, I don't know, that's the tall order. I don't know if you can do that. I mean, how do you expect to do that? I'm going to make it happen. That's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to try. No, not try. I'm going to do, right? Just stuck my foot in my mouth. But I think I said that to Eric yesterday when I was speaking with him. I said, okay, yeah, I think I'm going to try that. And he goes, what? He goes, fuck trying. He goes, you just told me you weren't going to do shit. You just told me you weren't going to risk it all. And so I'm like, you're right. I didn't mean try. I meant do. I meant I'm going to do it. I'm going to put everything you just told me into action. I have a whiteboard back here, and I think everybody should have a whiteboard. Everybody needs to write stuff down. I'm a writer. I have to write things down. I have to have stuff on paper. I have a bunch of notes everywhere that probably don't make sense to anybody else but myself. It's like puzzle pieces, but I need to have stuff written down on paper. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. Right. And if you don't share those ideas with other people, the important people to help that are going to help you make that happen, then it doesn't exist. You can talk all day long about, I'm going to wait for the perfect time to do this. And once this happens, that's when I'm going to implement this. And then once this happens, that's when I'm going to implement this. You just got to do it and figure it out later. If you don't have all the pieces in place, but you have the ability to get started, and the pieces will fall into place, right? And if they don't, what's the worst that can happen? Then you fail. Big deal. It's better than not trying at all, or not attempting to do it at all, right? So, and you're back in the same place that you were. So, I mean, if people approach their lives with that type of mindset, and mindset's a whole different discussion. Then you really need to evaluate what you're doing. Are you happy with your 9 to 5? Are you happy with a mediocre life? And some people are, and I'm not judging. But I want more, and I'm striving for more. Yeah. And on the way, I'm going to be able to help as many people as I can, in one way or the other, whether it's through their addiction or whether it's through pursuing things that are going to give them the financial freedom to live the life they want to live. Then so be it.
I love it, mate. And I really appreciate your time. And I want to end on just one more question. So I think I know the answer, by the way, but you're walking through a Starbucks cafe today, yeah? And you can see your 21-year-old self sat there in the corner having a coffee. Mm-hmm. 1 minute. What do you say to him?
Okay, so first of all, my guy would be sipping a coffee with a bag, with probably a computer bag filled with 3 bottles of wine, right? I would tell him that you have limited time with your family. Your father is going to die. You're not amounting to shit. Figure out what you want and go for it. And don't, and think outside the box. I mean, that's such a cliche, think outside the box. I mean, I think I would tell, first of all, I'd probably give him a smack and say, what's in the bag? Why? Is that the life you want for yourself? What if I could tell you that you would be a multimillionaire at age, 45 if you made the proper changes right now? Would you change that? You know, and I tell him that it was possible. I mean, don't wait. Don't wait. I mean, it's just do it now. You're never too young. You're never too inexperienced. It's just surround yourself with the right people. Get rid of your old friends. That'd be a big thing. Is get rid of your friends. Walk away. Start new friends. Look for people that are at a high level of success, and surround yourselves with them. Soak it all in. Learn from these people, and eventually, you'll be one of those people.
Mate, I love it. You've dropped so much amazing wisdom that the listeners have been spoiled massively with this. And I look forward to bringing you back on again soon, mate.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate it, man.
Where can people find you, buddy? I know you're going to be a lot more active in social media, especially by the sounds of what you were saying there. So tell them where we.
Yeah. So, my name is my IG. Yeah, I'm going to start documenting more. I have to start doing that. Is Tony TONY _ my last name Phelan. If they can see it on the screen there, or PHELAN, and then level up. But level up is abbreviated LVLUP. So Tony _ Phelan LVLUP. That is me. And yeah, follow me if you want.
Go follow him, guys. Thanks for coming on, mate.
All right, Jack. Take care, buddy.